Have you guys watched Lisa Gaido's Engage video where she says this?
I'm still being told what to do. And one thing about me, don't tell me what to do. Even if I want to do it, if you tell me I won't do it, don't tell me.
That used to be me. And if you ask my husband, it's still me. You're probably wondering how Lisa Gaido's video comes into career choice or career assessment. I'll get to it just now. But it's the big secret that nobody talks about, and actually a lot of people are missing out on when choosing the career that they want to go into. Work style or work orientation, or some people call it cognitive style, is basically what motivates you or motivates your interpretation of how you experience, how you problem solve, how you think about information. There are 4 dimensions of work style, and we're going to go into them so that you can understand where your work orientation falls and how you can use it to your maximum advantage. Let's get into it. So the first type of orientation is the creative orientation. I mentioned how I can be kichwa ngumu. If you tell me what to do, I won't do it, or I will do it a different way. And that kind of falls directly into this orientation, and it's the creative orientation. Let's call them innovators. If you are creatively oriented or your work style is creative, then you tend to value flexibility. You don't want to do the same thing every day. You don't even want to have maybe a to-do list. Not really. You're the type who says, I feel like doing this today, and that's what you're going to do. That's what creative orientation means. It's about the flexibility, the level of flexibility you like in your work environment, or even in any environment. Like, you basically like to have the freedom to interpret a task in the way that you see it, and then come up with a creative solution, even if it's the harder solution. So sometimes you'll find these people who they have a manual of how to connect things, but they will put the manual aside and they will do it from scratch without any reading of that manual, and they'll really struggle, and it will take them hours, much longer than it should have taken if they used the manual. But it's because of this creative orientation that you want to do things the way you feel like doing them, and not the way you've been told to do them, or the easiest way. It's not always about the easiest route, although sometimes we do tend to find the easiest way to do something. If you have a child with this creative orientation, you might find yourself always asking them, na umesomea exam? Na utasoma lini? Na kweli unasomanga? Until the exam passes. And it's not that they'll fail, but you'll always wonder, is this child living up to their full potential? I guess we'll never know, but it's their way of doing life. You can give them the coping skills to adjust with it, but basically, they don't like repetitive work, they don't like structure. So you need to be very creative also in how you present the tasks that they need to handle. The downside of the creative orientation is that you might not have a structured way of doing things. First of all, like we said, it might take you longer to do things, but also because you don't like structure, you might find yourself struggling with deadlines, procrastination. That is very strong in people with a creative orientation. You want to leave things to the last minute. When you're running helter-skelter, pressure is high, and that's when you release your best work. You'll also find these people who they'll tell you, hey, but the inspiration has not come. I'm not able to do this. The inspiration has not come. Which in a lot of times tends to be actually artistic people who have this tendency as well. So a lot of artistic people are actually creatively oriented. On the opposite side of the creative orientation is the administrative orientation. If you relate to this orientation, you're probably wired for leadership. These systematic thinkers, they like to work in a particular structure. They have a process for doing the things that they do. They like to tick off boxes. They're probably the type who have a fully scheduled day and a full list, to-do list. I can give the example of in high school. When we were in high school, my sister was of this orientation. Of course, I didn't know then. But she would pack for boarding school. 1 week before school opens and put her bag there at it's ready. And then she would now proceed to use the last week of her holiday to read for entry cards. And I'm like, is it really worth it? See, if you fail, you fail, me as my creative orientation. But for her, she had a schedule. I will have fun from this week up to this week, and this last week is meant for studying. I never understood it. I probably won't even still understand it now, but it's an orientation that really helps leaders because they are able to focus in on the things that they need to do and get them achieved, even if it's as a team or as an individual. The downside of the administrative orientation is that these guys might struggle with surprises. Like if something happens that was not in the plan, it will be like, "Ai, sasa tutafanya." So it also needs to be balanced with a bit of flexibility from the creative orientation. The good thing is that all these are spectrums, and you can have scores for each one of them as part of your profile. It doesn't mean that because you're high in creative, you won't have any administrative orientation in you. The third type of orientation is the information orientation. These guys are the researchers. I also tend to score highly in this orientation. Now, I'm the type of person, if you're talking to me and then you say something and I'm like, question mark, I will pick up my phone, pole, and then I'll start Googling, what does this mean or whatever, and I'll verify the information that you've just given me. It also comes to play in work. So before I make a decision, I'm going to do research. I'm going to, even as I use my creative orientation, I'm going to research which other way can I do this work? Or I'm going to research what have been the results when people have done this versus this. If you're a mom to this type of personality, you might find yourself asking, ni ujuaji? Ama these guys will question everything that you tell them, and they will want to do research, whether that is actually the correct way to do this, the correct way to say this, the correct way, like they will question your everything and they'll back it up with research. Now, you will find that these guys also, when they come to the work environment or the school environment, they'll want to go ahead of the teacher. They'll want to find other ways that people are using that information. And these guys have like the most like random pieces of information as part of their memory. They'll tell you all about something like weird that you never thought about, or they're always asking questions like, what if this and this happened? You'll also find that in their watching habits, like on YouTube, they'll watch things which are experimental. Like there's one my daughter watches about a guy who just eats so many sweets and then he tests the effectiveness of toothpaste. He's actually a dentist. So she finds it so interesting, while me, I'm like, huh? Anyway, people with this style love digging into data. They like researching. But the downside of this is that they might also find themselves stuck in that research phase and never move forward or make a decision. In case they are presented with different options, they might research the options, and if there's no clear-cut way forward, then they might struggle to make a decision based on non-existent information. But that's something that you can always work around. Yeah. Finally, we have the people orientation. These are the connectors. These guys tend to work with people. They lean a lot towards people. So either managing people, that's telling them what to do, or encouraging people, inspiring people, so working with them. So you'll find a lot of this people orientation, they tend to be in roles like HR. They would also grow quickly in leadership because they are able to be of influence and work with other people to get the desired results. So how does this present as a student? Well, these are the guys who you'll find, I need to do group work so that I can understand what the teacher said. Like I want to talk it out as opposed to reading it in a book. These are also the guys who tend to be very people-oriented. They might not be extroverted. They could be, but they might not be. But they tend to lean on other people to achieve the tasks that they've set out for themselves. With this orientation, it's not just about being social. It's also about influence, being able to have people do something because you influence them towards that direction. Yeah. A lot of CEOs credit their success to having this orientation, that being able to inspire people, influence people. It really comes to play in the work environment, especially as you grow higher. The downside of the people skills, or the people orientation, is that you will find that some people might not be able to work without another person, so you're not able to do individual projects or to study individually, or you struggle with it. You can do it, but you struggle with it. That's the downside of the people orientation. I was talking to my makeup artist, hi Judy, and she was telling me how she studied procurement in uni, and then she went for internship where she was interning in a government office in the procurement function. And she would basically just sit at the desk until somebody brings some form of report or request, then you action, and then after it's gone, now you sit again. And she was like, imagine I can't hack. She moved on and now she's a makeup artist. And from just my basic interaction, I was able to pick up that she has a creative orientation where she desires and she looks for flexibility. But she also has a high administrative orientation. Why? Because she set up her own place, she trains her people, like she's very focused and detail-oriented, she'll keep appointments. So you can tell that she has a balance between her creative orientation and her administrative orientation. But imagine if she had stuck out that job where she had to sit in an 8 to 5 and sit at a desk and spend your whole time on one thing for something that you don't even know, like you can't see the bigger picture of it. I feel like she's in a much better place with her own business. What do you think? This is why some people can love their jobs, and then as they go up the ladder, they start hating it completely. So what happens is, when you get your first job, it might be perfect for your orientation. So for example, you might be creatively oriented, and then you get into sales, where you're given the opportunity to close sales as best, like however you want to do it, as long as the bottom line is met, So you're out there moving around, there's no schedule, as long as you report, I visited this client, it doesn't matter, nobody's keeping tabs on your hours. So you're really good at it, you're selling and you're pushing your targets and you're really good at it. So the company decides, we're tutakupea promotion, you're doing too well, we need you to inspire these other people to do the same. So they give you a promotion. Now this promotion means now that in addition to your own reporting, you need to check the reports of these other people. You need to make reports so that you can send to your seniors, whether it's the CEO or whoever is your top line manager. So now you find yourself, Sasa, I'm always at my desk. I'm no longer seeing clients the way I used to. Even when I'm seeing clients, it's because of an escalation, because now you've become management. You are no longer using your creative orientation. So you grow in the administrative orientation. And for no doubt, if you are put in an environment where you need the administrative orientation, it will definitely grow. But it's not the thing that makes you happy about the job. So you'll always ask yourself, I used to love this job. How come I don't like it anymore? How can you go about this? So the thing is, if you understand that I am creatively oriented, then you will plan yourself accordingly. You'll say, Monday to Wednesday, ni ya kwenda nje kuona clients. Thursday, Friday, nafanya reporting, nafunga wiki. I do the administrative aspect of my work on particular days, so that it's not dreary. Every time you have to wake up in the morning, you're thinking, guys, sasa nitaenda tena. This also happens to people who are people-oriented. So let's say you are in customer service or you are in relationship management. Your work was to deal one-on-one with clients. You are always interacting with new people. Like you are getting your energies pushed from that. And then you are taken now, let's say you act in a bank. Now they're like, she was doing so well in that. Let's take her into the customer experience, but in terms of planning the customer experience and not really leaving out the customer experience. So your interaction with the customer now is completely gone, but now you're looking at it from a research perspective, like what would make the customers happy? And you find yourself asking, is this really it's not the job I wanted? Oh, how come I'm not happy? It's the same office, it's the same culture, but I'm not finding the joy that I found when I was on the floor speaking to customers directly. So knowing yourself in this way can really help you when you come to crossroads and you need to decide which direction does my career need to go. And also in terms of planning yourself, there's no way you'll refuse money at it because this work has more reports. Please, you'll take the promotion, but you'll also be aware of the terms that you need to set for yourself so that you're not killing yourself in the job. So here's the truth. In every job, there's a certain aspect of each of these orientations, but some are stronger than others. You'd be surprised to find, like content creators, they might not necessarily have that creative orientation. Actually, I think some of them have a really strong administrative orientation. So they're able to get the job done. They're able to set tasks for themselves, say, I'm going to shoot this number of videos today, this number of reels today, all that. That's the administrative orientation that's taking charge of their work environment. But then you might also find that they have that people orientation. So they might not speak with you directly, but through the screen, they're able to influence you. How are they being able to influence you to take a certain action? And that's the people orientation coming to play. How are they able to convince even sponsors to take them up as their brand influencers or whatever other role that they decide to take? So all these little orientations, they do come into play in every career and at different scopes. But you just need to find out the one where you are able to balance what you are and what you need to be. Orientation might also be the reason why creatives might struggle to monetize their creativity. So for example, you're a fashion designer, you know fashion, like you've gone to art school and everything. But that aspect of the business, selling, which involves the people orientation, the aspect of administration of running a business, you need the administrative orientation. So you're probably lacking in these other orientations, and it either requires that you get people who can perform these functions for you, or otherwise you pull up in those orientations. Now, as I mentioned, the downside of a creative orientation is that you're really poor with things like timelines, with completing tasks. Like you might leave it up to the time when you feel inspired, but you see, you can't run a business on that. You need output consistently. So you really need to be able to balance this orientation so that you achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself. Did you relate to any of the information that I've shared today? What would you have done differently in your career had you known this information prior? I know for myself, I really struggled with that nini of kichwa ngumu. There's a time even my sister asked me, why must you fight everything? And I'm like, imagine I don't know. If I knew then how to articulate what I needed, how much further would I have gone? Anyway, don't let that be your child today or any other day. If you have a Gen Z in your house, or you know of a Gen Z who's not yet made a decision on career, and even if they have and they're still early on, why not book an assessment for them today? It might be the thing that puts them on the life path that's best for them. It doesn't matter if they want to be remote, freelance, or corporate. The road to success in any career begins with the knowledge of self.